Hey guys, Mr. Backerberg here. In this video, we're going to be looking at exponents and the zero rule. Now here I'm going to give you the rule first, and then I'm going to talk about why it works in just a little bit. So the zero rule for exponents says if you raise some number or some variable to the zero power, that's always going to equal 1. Unless you raise 0 to the 0 power, then that's undefined. So let's talk about why these work. Now we're going to show why this works using the quotient rule, but first I want to look at just a couple of fractions. Let's say we were taking 3 and dividing it by 3. Well, if you take a number and divide it by itself, the answer you get is 1. If we took 7 divided by 7, we get 1. If we took x and divided it by x, if we're taking something and dividing it by itself, we're going to get 1 as the answer. But let's look at this example with the variables a little bit closer. There are no powers written on those x's, so those are implied powers of 1. And our quotient rule for division says that we're supposed to keep the base the same, but then we're supposed to subtract those exponents. So if I do 1 minus 1, I'm going to get x to the 0. Well, earlier we said if we took something and divided it by itself, we get 1. And now we just said that we're going to get x to the 0 when I take x to the first divided by x to the first. Well, x to the 0 is 1 because what we're really doing in there is taking something and dividing it by itself. If we took x squared and divided it by x squared, we would subtract those exponents. So 2 minus 2 is 0, and again we would get 1. Now things can get a little bit more complicated. If we took a times b and raise that to the 0 power, we had a power of a power rule that says if we have some things with powers and they're being raised to another power, we're supposed to multiply those powers together. So this a technically has a first power on it, and this b technically has a first power on it. So if I take that first power on the a and multiply it by the 0, I get a to the 0 power, times if I take that b and the 1 power times the 0 power is going to give me 0. Well, a to the 0 is going to be 1 because if we raise anything to the 0 power, it's 1. And if I take b to the 0 power, that's also going to be 1. So then 1 times 1 is just 1. So this whole thing turns into 1. Now let's talk about why 0 to the 0 power is undefined. If we use a similar example where we look at using the quotient rule, if we took 0 squared and divided by 0 squared, we would get 0 to the 0 power. But if we look at what's happening on the bottom of that fraction, we've got 0 on the bottom of the fraction, and we're never ever allowed to divide by 0. We call that an undefined value. So this being undefined, this 0 squared over 0 squared being undefined, means that 0 to the 0 power is also going to be undefined. That's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching.